Now we're going to get to the 5 key decisions Gregg Berhalter needs to get right for Copa América. So let's start with number 5. Replace Sergiño Dest's production, Tony. That's something he needs to get right. How do you replace Sergiño Dest's production?
Well, we don't have another player that's the same exact profile as Sergiño Dest, right? Joe Scalli's been the guy, and we can only assume that come the starting lineup against Bolivia, we're going to see Joe Scally, right? So I think what we've learned over the 2 games is it's going to be there's going to be more of an emphasis where Sergiño Dest is probably, I'm going to say, like, his mindset is 70% attacking and 30% maybe defending, where it might be flipped for Joe Scally. And maybe Joe Scally in the first 2 games sort of as the right back, if you will, against Colombia and Brazil. Now he was pinned back a little bit against Colombia. Maybe he was a little bit more conservative. I wonder, with a little bit more time, a little bit more space against Bolivia and Panama at least, if we see Joe Scally get forward. But I don't know that we're going to get the same attacking production. I do hope that we get at least an option in the attack on the right side from our right fullback. And again, we can only assume it's going to be Joe Scally because he got the 2 starts in the last 2 games. But if we get more on the defensive side of things and get solid defending from him, I think we also take that as a plus as well, Charlie.
You know, I want to just put something on you for a second. Let's say we do have all this possession, and like you mentioned in the first segment, Bolivia is saying, hey, we just want to get a draw. Well, we're defending. You got to break us down. And Joe Scally's obviously his experience and his ability is in defending. And I think he's done a pretty good job of defending. When asked, I go back to that Nations League final when he had to replace Sergiño Dest because of the red card, and he handled Alphonso Davies for 90 minutes. That's pretty damn impressive. And so you look at how he did it in the Brazil match as well. I thought he was pretty good. So given that, would you flirt with the idea of bringing Timothy Weah back down to that right back position where he's played at Juve in that right wing back spot? He's also played a full season with Lille as a right back and a left back. Or would you move a Yunus Musa at right back where we've seen him play at AC Milan as recent as this past season? Weston McKennie has played there, although Weston, I probably would prefer a Yunus Musa there, just given you lose a lot with Weston moving out of the midfield. So just playing devil's advocate, if you are going up against a team that's not really looking to attack and you need someone who is a little bit more gifted with service and breaking down people down that right flank, when would you try that if you're not going to try it against the Bolivia?
Well, I think you start with Joe Scally because that's what you've built and see how the game goes. But if you get in a moment where you think, okay, we're completely in control in the attack, you make a change at halftime. Say you want to bring Brendan Aronson on and get more into the attack. So what do? Maybe you take Joe Scally out, you drop Timothy Weah back, and because you know he's going to be in the attacking third of the field more often than not. But I think you start with him a little bit, a little bit more conservative, if you will. And see how it plays out. But I'm with you. If those opportunities arise, I think you can go to them, later in the game.
All right, let's go to number 4. Maximize Gio Reyna. We've talked about it. Gio Reyna, he's got a lot to prove this tournament. This is a big tournament for him, both for the U.S. Men's National Team, but also for his club, his future of his club, because his club football hasn't been great, so to speak, over the past year. Dortmund, yeah, they're moving on from Terzic, who obviously didn't really love Gio Reyna because he didn't play him, and then they obviously loaned him out, and then he didn't do well in his loan move to Nottingham Forest. So he has a lot going into this tournament, a lot to put on his performance. So how do the U.S. Men's National Team maximize Gio Reyna?
The simple for me, the more touches he gets in the attacking third of the field, I think that's how we maximize him. If you go back to, I still go back to, and I don't know if it was by design or if it was how the game played out, the Nations League final, where I thought Gio was great. The work was incredible. I think the most work I've seen him put in a U.S. Men's National Team jersey. but he did a lot of it in dropping deep into the midfield to try and make the game. If we can avoid that as much as possible and get him as close to the goal, because we know how dangerous he can be close to goal, I think that's where we maximize him. He's going to be on the field. He has to be on the field, but let's get him in creative areas where he can be creative.
100%. And then in key decisions that Gregg Berhalter needs to get right, we're going to go to number 3 with Tyler Adams, load management. Now, you've managed Tyler in the youth national team stages in the ranks, and you've seen him, and we've come to see his potential and his impact with this group and how he's a leader. He's a captain. But when they don't have him on the pitch, there is a drop off. So, given that he finally got some minutes under his belt in this last friendly against Brazil, is late, how do you see them using Tyler? Is it 30 minutes in this Bolivia game? Do you give him 45? How often do you play him 60? Do you not play him at all? Well, how do you see them getting him fit for that Uruguay game, which I think is going to be really the tough test of the group stage? And that's definitely where you need Tyler Adams.
Well, there's a plan for Tyler Adams, right? We don't know exactly what it is, but it's leading up to, at some point, getting Tyler Adams to play 90 minutes. And hopefully it's in this tournament. And hopefully it's, as you mentioned, before the Uruguay game. But there's a plan. And they're not going to, I don't think they're, with him and his history, I don't think they're going to deviate from whatever the plan that they figured out with him and his club. And I think that probably makes the most sense is to do that, because he does have this short history. And I think Gregg is probably going to be really respectful of whatever that plan is that they agreed on, because we have that. Remember the image from Nations League, right? When they took Tyler Adams out, where it was 45 minutes and that was it. And, he was kind of, in a respectful way, having an argument with Gregg, like, no, I want to stay on the field. And we knew what he was talking about, but Gregg had to respect the fact that his club had this agreement. And I still think they will stick to whatever the numbers, Charlie, they say are going to get Tyler to where he needs to be to get to 90 minutes fit. I don't think they're going to rush anything. We all hope, right, that it's before the Uruguay game, but if it's not, maybe it's somewhere down the road in the tournament. Maybe we don't see it in this competition. That's the reality. Maybe we don't see 90 minutes from Tyler Adams. Of course, we all want to get there, and
I'll be damned if I don't see Tyler Adams for 90 minutes. I will be damned.
I know. It's tough to think about, right? But they've got to look, we've all come back from injuries. You have a plan. One game, it's 45 minutes. You got to see how you react. So the next game, it's 60 minutes. You might come out of the 60 minutes and go, man, I don't feel real good. I just played 100 and plus minutes in 2 games, and I haven't done that in, however many months. And so the plan was game 3, where now you go 70 minutes, but after game 2, you got to scrap the plan because you just can't get there. So you got to have the plan, you got to try and execute, and then you got to see how the player's body reacts.
Well, it's perfect segue into key decision number 2, which is subs and in-game adjustments, where I think this is the area Gregg Berhalter really needs to improve. Because it's one thing to be super prepped and have an idea, and you watch video and you say, this is how Bolivia plays, this is how Panama plays, this is how Uruguay plays under Bielsa. It's another thing when in the game, maybe a player gets injured, or they turn to a possession, or they turn to a mid block, or they do something that was unexpected, and you have to make those changes before it's too late. And I think that's where I've always struggled in watching the U.S. play, because I say, man, it's either going really well and then things change because the other team makes changes and you don't adjust, or you came in with the right game plan in theory, but they're doing something completely different. So it's not working and you need to change instead of continuing to try and put a square peg in a round hole. So where do you sit on the subs and in-game adjustments?
Yeah, mine's real simple. This is where Gregg Berhalter needs to be better in his time, is making those in-game adjustments. Go back to the Netherlands, right, in the World Cup, and I would imagine teams are going to sit back against us based on, seeing our inability at points to break teams down. So this is a really important view for us over the next 3 weeks or so, hopefully 3 weeks or so, on how Gregg Berhalter makes his adjustments. I think they're always prepared. I think they always have a game plan. They don't always execute it, but making changes is where the elite managers of the world get to in their careers. They're able to make changes based on what they see, and we'll be looking out for this one for sure.
And Tony, I'm just going to take us to the promised land with the key decision number one. It's identify the starting number 9. Now, this is a position I played. This is a position that I think the U.S. has yet to find a clear favorite, a clear number one who's going to take the reins and say, I'm that guy. And so for this tournament, Gregg Berhalter has to figure out who is that player that you're going to depend on to not only score goals, which is the number one job for number 9, to score goals. You get an opportunity to finish. But also, when you're talking about the best players in the group, Christian Pulisic, he is your best player best player on the team, your most dynamic attacking player. How do you create more space for him? How do you help him get this team over the hump, right? So for me, you got to have a number 10 to supply the number 9. Service is a big thing with this team. How often is that number 9 involved in the game? If Valerian Balogun is your number 9, this is not a striker who can be on an island and win just aerial balls, long balls. That's not your striker if that's the style you're going to play. If you're not going to get that much service, Balogun's not your guy. And he's your most technically gifted striker that you have in this group. He's your best finisher in this group. But if he's not getting service, he's not getting balls to his feet, that's where he needs to excel. Connectivity with Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, and Timothy Weah, but balls to his feet so he can move in and around the box. That's what his gift is. Then he's not your guy. Then the next up is it Josh Sargent, which I highly doubt because he hasn't featured at all in these friendlies. He's still coming back from injury, so he's not going to be sharp. Even if he is good to go, and you could say he's 100% healthy, which we both know he's not. Probably not your guy. Still working through it. Number 3, it's Ricardo Pepi. Ricardo Pepi has everything to play for. He's number 2 at his club, and that situation is not going to change at all because the captain is Luke de Jong is in his position. So the only thing that he can benefit from this tournament is 1, increasing his stock with the U.S. men's national team, and 2, increasing his value. So if he doesn't want to stay at PSV, if Luke de Jong is for this season and next season, and you need to play, this is how you show everyone else around the world that you're ready for the next step. So Gregg Berhalter has a lot to figure out in terms of what he's going to do at that position. How does he maximize that position? So it's going to be an interesting summer, and these are big decisions that Gregg has to get right, in my opinion, for Copa America to be a success.